So, Frank, we're here to talk a little bit for the AEC Online Conference about the evolution of technology in your work, the role of technology in Gehry Partners, and the genesis of Gehry Technologies. So why don't we start at the beginning? Why don't you talk a little bit about...
Do you know where the beginning is?
You're going to have to tell me. So
at the beginning is a story I've told many times. I was doing a building in Switzerland, my first building in Europe, and there was a circular ramp stair, and the roof of it, the exterior of it, I had to use descriptive geometry, which I'd studied, to try and figure out how to explain it to the builder. And when it was built, there's a kink in it, so whatever I did didn't work. And I talked to people about it, and I asked people who were working in the office, is there a better way to do this? Long story short, it led to Dassault and CATIA. They have software for the aircraft industry, the automobile industry, the blah, blah, blah. And it's very overkill for what I needed, but we were doing the Barcelona fish sculpture with Permastelisa out of Italy. And we were working with CAD, two-dimensional. And the drawings were sent off to Italy for fabrication by CAD. And I got a call from Massimo Colomban, the head of Permastelisa, and said, we can't build it from this. So help. So we sent him somebody, I don't even, maybe it was you, somebody.
Yeah, probably Rick Smith.
Somebody was sent to Italy. He bought a workstation. And a week later, he called me and said, perfecto. And it was the struts that hold the wings of that. This is a flying fish. The wings were, you couldn't describe them in 2D. And he could in 3D. So we realized for the work we were doing, it enabled us to do shapes that I wanted to explore for architecture. The reason, there's a reason why I went into that kind of language was to avoid, to humanize the building, to avoid decoration. I started messing around with the sense of movement, which is as old as the Greek marbles. But and so we started working with CATIA, and we started doing everything with it. We did the museum in Bilbao, and the museum in Bilbao. For one great example is the steel structure, in which no two pieces of steel are the same size, came in at 18% under budget by 6 subcontractors within 1% of each other. So when you get a tight bid like that, the documents are good, and you can take one of the bids. You pick the best one, but usually, when the documents aren't good, you would get a low ball and a high ball and middle, and you don't know where you are. And so people are afraid to take the low bidder because you get in trouble. This made that all go away, all the fear go away. It was built. They ran into a little problem in erection that they didn't anticipate, and we had 18% budget so we could pay them the extra. Mm-hmm. But that's when I realized how powerful the tool this was. And I've always been looking for a way to avoid what seems inevitable in the construction industry. The architect designs a building, the owner likes it, it goes out to bid, comes in too high, the owner starts talking to the contractor, the architect is marginalized, infantilized, and things happen to the design to the detriment of the client, the architect, and the world. And how do you become the master builder again? And I realized with the tools we were using, with the modeling tools, that we could control a vast amount of information and stay parental throughout the process to the end, get the building done. And recently we did the 76-story building in New York that's under construction. Perma Stelisa is doing the curtain wall. The exterior curtain wall has wavy forms in it that would normally create problems with a normal contractor. They would double the price or something like that. Working with our software and the contractor, over a period of time, we were able to get the curtain wall that's being built into a price equal to what it would have been as a flat wall, which was kind of amazing. And I think it's all related to this stuff that we're using.
So one of the things that I think people may not know about your process is that you are, in fact, very responsive to what you might call the facts on the ground, and better information about precisely things like price or how things are built. Can you talk a little bit about how you take advantage of that information when it's coming back in your process? What does the tools do to give you better visibility and control of the implications of building or cost on your designs?
Yeah. Well, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I came into the architecture. It's essentially you're providing a service, and it has an art component to it, right? That you're trying to make a beautiful something, building, and a place that evokes passion and feeling and all that kind of stuff. So you don't get things built if you add. I mean, it's easy to add gargantuan spaces and expensive walls and stuff and get everybody pretty excited, but it won't get built if it's not within a reasonable range, so that, the example everybody throws out is the Sydney Opera House. I'm not sure it's fair to throw that out, but everybody knows that story. And so it got built, but over time, and with a lot of bodies along the way, unfairly for Jan Rutsen. But so I know that we have to be pretty precise to get these things built, and to use the tools that you and your colleagues have developed for us makes that work. So in our study models, for example, this is very rough study models in the early stages. We use the digitizing to analyze floor area, volume, and surface area of the building. If we know those three things, and we know what the ratios are, we sort of keep an eye on the budget as we design. So, in other words, if I start getting into shapes that are running beyond what I know, I have a guide. Mm-hmm. And I don't find it onerous. I find it really enlightening and enabling to have that, because I feel comfortable to fix shapes as I go, that they're going to be rational, right, appearing to, there's always a component in the teams of somebody who says, well, you can't do that. That's twice the expense. Right. Blah, blah, blah. This keeps us